kids, it's Mr. Flair here, hope you're well. Out and about today on a beautiful late September's day, last throes of summer, just to show you what that's like, because I know you're going to be seeing this in the winter. And today I'm on another bike that I'm really pleased to be riding, because this is a bike that came out in 2020. It's the Ducati Panigale V2, a bike that I've really been looking forward to riding, because I've got an 899, which was one of the precursor bikes to this, so it's going to be really interesting to see how this differs. Anyway, if you're interested in this machine, stick around and stay tuned. I'll give you my first ride review. Okay, so when I say my first ride review, actually this is my second ride. I picked the bike up yesterday from Ducati UK, had a great ride back, recorded this review, but alas, a fly got stuck right on the camera lens and I didn't notice it, and it ruined the whole thing. So I'm going to be doing that again, but it's no hardship, because what I do know after having ridden this bike for about 70 miles so far is I absolutely love it. It is a beast of a machine. Let me just get down this road that I need to concentrate on a bit, and then I'll tell you a bit more. Oh, what a weapon. Alright, let's calm it down. Alrighty, so yeah, just a little bit of background then, I suppose, about this bike and me. Back in around about 2012, I think it was, the original Panigale 1199 came out, and I thought that was the best looking bike ever made, and I really fancied one, but I just thought it was going to be too much for the road. I'm basically a road rider. Listen to this thing scream. And I just thought the 1199 really was too much. You couldn't really exercise it on the road without doing stupidly illegal speeds all the time. So when in about 2014, maybe 2013, Ducati announced they're bringing out the 899, which looked exactly the same as the big Panigale, with a slightly smaller, more road-focused engine. I jumped at the chance and I bought myself one in late 2015, and then and that's a bike I love, and I've still got that bike, and it's still a beautiful, beautiful bike. More about that later perhaps. Anyway, about 2 years later, Euro 4 came along, and Ducati had to make some changes to the bike, and they relaunched it as the 959. A few changes to the design, notably had some horrible exhausts that were put there because of Euro 4, and also they had to stroke the engine slightly to bring the power back up to where it would have been, in fact slightly more than the 899, because the way that the new exhaust and the airbox etc strangled things for Euro 4. So that was the 959, and then this year, 2020, I'm recording this, they sort of relaunched the bike again. Oh, the grip round here today is amazing. To bring it more in line with the Panigale V4, so they called it now the Panigale V2. It's basically got the same engine in as the 959 and the 899 before that. It has had some tweaks, I mean it's had some internal changes, and it's had some massive changes in as far as the electronics is concerned. It's now got the full suite from the V4 and a colour TFT, which I love, and it's been restyled to look like the V4 as well. It's a matter of a debate as to whether that's better than the 899 or not. I personally think I prefer the 899, but that's one for personal opinion. Anyway, so that's sort of how we got to this stage with the V2, and I explain that because I am obviously slightly biased as an 899 owner. I love this type of bike, this mid-range sports bike, although if you call something that's almost elite a bike mid-range, but I think it's just a great bike for the road. Anyway, let me tell you what I think about the V2 then, having ridden it so far for about, I don't know, 60 miles so far. A couple of things immediately strike me about the bike. First thing's not a good thing, and it's these mirrors. They're big old stalky mirrors on here, but they rattle, shake and vibrate like nothing else. Well, they vibrate exactly like the mirrors did on the Ducati Super Sport, which I didn't like on that either, and it's such a shame. I mean, you can see out the back, you can see they work okay, but they are shaking. I don't know if you can see that on the camera, that they do vibrate a lot. It's a real shame that Ducati have done that, or come up with these mirrors, because back on my 899 I had properly solid mirrors that worked beautifully well and had no shake, rattle and roll at all. And not only that, the mirrors on the 899 Panigale actually fold. They've got a little hinge here, whereas these ones aren't. They're just a solid bit. So if you're filtering or whatever, or moving the bike around the garage, you can't fold them in. So that's a bad move. But it's the not, you know, it's this moving around that's the worst thing. Mine on the 899 don't do that. So that's something about this bike that is definitely a step backwards. But I think that's the only step backwards, because everything else about the bike is a huge improvement. Let me start with comfort, and I say comfort in quote marks because it is a sports bike at the end of the day. And no matter what anyone says, there's no such thing when you get to 50 years old plus, as I am, as a comfortable sports bike. So yes, you are cramped, and it is physically quite a small bike. Lucky for me, I'm quite a small fella. Oh, let's just slow down a little bit. This is the problem with sports bikes, they do encourage you to ride like a lunatic. So yeah, so for me the bike isn't that terribly uncomfortable. They've padded the seat slightly more, so the seat is still hard, but it's softer than that on the 959 or the 899 before it. The foot pegs are, you know, in a sporty position. My knees are at an acute angle, but it's not hideously sporty. The rear sets aren't that rear sets, if that makes sense. And the handlebars are relatively wide for a sports bike. So as they go, it's not bad, but it is a sports bike, so that's the comfort bit covered. Alright, what else while we're talking practical stuff? Nothing behind me. Let's just try the brakes. And they are amazing on here. It's got the Brembo, I think they're called the M434s, something like that. I'll go through the detailed specs when I do the walk around in the usual way in a minute. Talk you through that and show you the brakes. But they work absolutely beautifully. Back ones aren't so good, but they're just there really to stabilise the bikes and corners and so on, and it's no different to other bikes in that respect. So the brakes are beautiful. Handling on roads like this, it goes without saying, absolutely perfect. It's one of those bikes you just think about where you want to go and around it goes. It just feels light and flickable like a sports bike should. And the V2 engine on this just sounds glorious. Once you get her over about 7,000 RPM, it just opens up and becomes a beast. I love the sound of the V2. I actually think I prefer the sound of this to the sound of the V4. I love the V4 as well. That was a beautiful bike to ride. He's letting me pass. Thank you, Mr. White Van. Thank you, sir. See, they're not all bad. Oh, into 40. That's the enemy fun for a bit. So yeah, the engine sounds absolutely lovely. This one's got the standard exhaust on it. It's quite loud, but it's not as loud as my 899. I've got the Terminiones on that when it's super loud. Of course, now with the new exhaust, they've because this is now Euro 5 friendly, they've had to put a massive collector underneath the bike, as all manufacturers do these days, and it's got one single outlet as opposed to outlets for the exhaust at either side like the previous Panigale's had. And it doesn't look as bad as the 959, but it doesn't look as good as the 899 or the original Panigale. But that's just unfortunately what Euro 5 has done for us. Big changes on the styling as well. As I said, the fairings now look exactly the same as the V4, so it's quite, well, to me it looks a bit more bloated than the original Panigale. Got new LED lights on the front, new air intakes. Again, I'll show you all this when I do the walk around in a second. And I guess the real big change for this bike is the electronics package, as I say, which is now fully comprehensive with quick shifter both up and down, which works beautifully, by the way. Anti-wheelie control, Ducati traction control, lean angle, sensitive ABS, all that stuff, engine braking control, all configurable, all with riding modes that you can change. So if you like your electronics, this bike is well sorted. Now, I'm not a huge fan of electronics on bikes, but I have to say, on sports bikes that are super performant, and just because this is the, in quotes, baby Panigale, don't think this isn't performant. This is a massively fast, capable, quick bike. And on bikes like this, the electronics really do help. My 899 doesn't have wheelie control, for example, and I'm not one for doing wheelies out of choice, but that bike does lift the front wheel up quite readily if you don't ride it with a bit of respect. The other thing I've noticed quickly on riding this bike, now as we're coming into Princess Risborough here, this is just a little town, but 30-mile-an-hour zones and all that, traffic, what have you. Riding this at slow speeds, here I am at 26 miles an hour in third gear, and the bike just behaved itself beautifully. There's none of that twin judder, that sort of like you're riding a pneumatic drill, which is what I used to get on my 899, and I've had it on other big V-twins as well. They've sorted this bike. It absolutely flatters your riding. That's one of the things I loved about the V4 when I rode that last year, is that it makes your riding that much better, or it seems like it does, and that's got to be a good thing. You come off these bikes with a big grin on your face, And that's what it's all about, isn't it? I'm just wondering where to go, actually. Let's go this way. And then I can take her up Cop Hill, which is one of the old hill climb circuits. The other thing about the Panigale, and this is something that affects all Panigales, is because the way the exhaust is routed underneath the seat, it gets blooming hot when you're riding the thing. It's a hot day today. This is the last hurrah of summer, as I say, middle of September, and it's going to be 30 degrees today. It's only about 10:30 at the moment. Come out early before it gets too hot. But already this bike is absolutely cooking my gonads. And that is the same on all Ducati Panigales. You can get a heat shield kit, which I fitted to mine, which does help. I'll put a link in the corner to my video talking about that. And I think as well I can get you a discount to that, which the details I'll put in the link below. So if you have got a Panigale of any type and you suffer from the cooked gonad syndrome, which you will do, then do check out the heat kit. Well worth checking. The other thing that might be worth doing also is the Panigale throttle spacer, a mod that I did on my 899. Just takes the slop out of the throttle, which means it's again a little bit easier to ride slowly. I just want to go left here. Not that this one's hard to ride slowly though, as I say. I'm just going to do this left because this is Cop Hill. Normally this time of year the Cop Hill climb happens, but COVID has put pay to that. Let's give it a little rip up here. Suspension on here is set up lovely out the box. It's all adjustable, but for me at 11 stone it just seems perfect. I wouldn't need to change this at all. It is firm, but it's not, you know, teeth rattlingly firm. Beautiful. Alright, what I need to do is find a spot to do a little walk around, and there's a little, I think there's a little car park just up here, which if it's not too busy with ramblers, I don't feel too embarrassed, I'll do the walk around in there. Where is it? Here we go, Whiteleaf Cross and Hill. Probably is busy today because it's a nice day to go for a walk, but let's see. Okay, who says I don't do off-road? Ramblers are about. Let's stick her here. Not the best lit spot to do a walk around, but needs must and all that. Turning circle on here, not brilliant, and also getting it in neutral. I found actually it went in easy that time, but I found generally it's not that easy. Alright, let's just pop it down there. Yeah, I think we could do a walk around there, can't we? Why not? Alright, so let's kill her. Here she is then, the 2020 Ducati Panigale V2, the, in quotes, baby Panigale, looking absolutely splendid in the Ducati red. It comes in white as well with red accents, but I think if you're going to have a Ducati, you've got to have it in red, haven't you? The white one's about 300 quid more expensive. Anyway, what a beautiful looking bike. Whether it's as beautiful as the 899, the original Panigale, I don't know. I'll leave that to you to decide. But anyway, let me get the other camera out and I'll talk you through the specs in the usual way. Okay, here we go then. What a absolute beauty. Let me just show you some of the changes I talked about on here. So the lights, first of all, a completely different design to the Panigales that came before this. It's got the sort of an intake at the front here, as you can see. The lights are completely different. These are all LED now, but the main beams, I think, are these ones hidden in there, and the rest of this is now an intake. So it's got a sort of a technical purpose as well. What else to show you from a styling point of view? There's that exhaust I talked about with that hideous airbox, just a necessary evil of Euro 5, unfortunately. And then the other change at the back here, the light. It's now a sort of a wraparound affair at the back here. It still looks lovely. The old one was more, it was like an X shape, more like a TIE fighter. Again, I'm not sure it's an improvement or not, but it looks pretty nice. And overall, it is a beautifully built bike. You know, lovely quality feel, except for those mirrors that just spoil that whole thing, because they do shake and rattle, and obviously you look at them all the time as you ride the bike. So Ducati really need to sort that, and they can, because as I say, they used to be absolutely fine on the original Panigales that were foldable as well, which was a much better thing. Anyway, let's get on to the spec as I promised. The engine, here we go, 955cc twin cylinder super quadro engine, and this is what they've call as part of a stressed member. So it's got no frame on this bike per se, everything's bolted to the engine. Very, very clever. Same as on the big Panigales as well. In terms of power, puts out 153 horsepower at 10,750 RPM. The 899 used to put out 99, the 959 put out 102, so they're all within sort of 7 horsepower of each other, so but a little bit of an improvement on here. Torque 104 newton meters at 9,000 RPM, whereas the 959 again used to put out I think 102, so 2 newton meters up. You're not really going to notice the difference, and I guess the change in the exhaust etc counteracts that anyway. I imagine the increases in horsepower and torque really just counteract those Euro 5 changes. Brakes, we talked about them, didn't we? So on the front here we've got Brembos. Let's come down here, and these are on 2 320mm discs at the front. And these are the Brembo monoblock M4.32 4 pots with cornering ABS. On the back it's a 245mm disc. Oh, and something else worth mentioning, another big change, single-sided swing arm on here now, off the bigger Panigale. It just looks lovely, although it does add a bit of weight to the bike, which is interesting. The weight on this is 176 kilograms dry, whereas and curb weight is 200 kilograms, whereas the curb weight of the 959 was 197 and the 899 was 193. So with that single-sided swing arm you've gained over the 899 about 7 kilograms, and you do notice that when you move the bike around, unusually, even me who's an insensitive type. Seat height on here 840mm, so quite tall, a bit of extra padding, so it's 10mm more than previous Panigales, but it's nice and narrow because it is a V2, so even me at 5'8" with a 32-inch leg, I can get my feet pretty much flat on the deck, never feels like I'm going to drop it. Tank capacity on here 17 litres. I reckon you're looking at about 150 mile range. I've just got the fuel light starting to come on now, I need to give her a fill up. Electronics on here, I mentioned all the electronics, it's all now with this new TFT as well. It's got everything you could possibly want and more besides. Switch gear on here is works nice. They've changed this again over the older bikes. It's similar in terms of control, just slightly different switch gear. The looks of it looks a bit more modern. Oh, we didn't talk about suspension, did we? The front fully adjustable shower big piston forks. Let's just show you there. There we go. You can see the adjuster at the bottom there, and the adjusters on the top here again. Same, I think, as was on the 899 and the 959. And then at the back, you've got this sort of horizontally mounted affair, which I think looks really cool. And that, just trying to think what that's from, I think that's a Sachs unit on there, and again fully adjustable. Price wise for one of these, 14,995 if you want the red, or 15,295 for the white. Comes with a 24-month warranty, and that's pretty much it for the spec, I think. Anything else to show you? It's got that rear seat there. I wouldn't want to be a passenger on one, and it's got rear pegs as well, but I personally think would put the cowl on there, which is an optional piece, and remove those rear foot pegs. Just think it tidies up the bike, and of course it's screaming out for a tail tide, isn't it? Alright, enough chat, let's get back on and ride her some more. Right, let's just shift it backwards a bit. I mean, it is, although I've said it's heavier than the previous bikes, it's relatively light as they go, so it's quite easy to move around when you're not on gravel. So, turning circle on this is a bit rubbish though, has to be said. It's like a jumbo jet, but there we go. One thing again they've improved over previous all Ducatis I've ridden, starter motor's a bit more lively now. There's that colour TFT on startup, by the way, very nice. Yeah, the starter motor's a bit more lively than it used to be. Come on. Having said that, there's still a bit of doubt in your mind as to whether it's going to start. Always the case with Ducatis, and I've never had one let me down, but I don't know why they're like that. Anyway, let's let the Ramblers have some peace. Oh, I can't believe what a beautiful day it is today. So I must say a huge thank you to Ducati UK for lending me this bike. It's one I've very much been looking forward to getting to know, because of course I do know the 899 so well. So if you're interested in this bike, stick around and stay tuned to the channel. There's going to be a lot of videos coming on this over the next few weeks, possibly months. I'm going to of course get to know the bike better. I'll bring you the lessons I've learned about the bike in terms of not only the good things but the bad things too. No bike's perfect, and I'm sure I can find some stuff on here that I don't like, along with the mirrors. And also I'll endeavour to make a video directly comparing this with the 899. So if you're a bit of a Panigale anorak like myself, we can go through all the little detailed changes and just compare really how they ride, look, etc. So that's another one that I'm planning to make, providing I get time, and I intend to make time. So after my first ride In fact, this is my second ride, as I say. What are my overriding thoughts on the bike so far? Well, you can tell pretty much instantly whether you're going to like a bike or not, and I absolutely love this. I love the V4, but I really don't think if you're not a track god, I'm not, I'm just an average Joe, and I just ride on the road most of the time, but even if you took this on the track, it'd be great. But there really is no need, I don't think, to spend the 20 grand plus on the V4. You get some extra bragging rights down the pub, of course. If you just want to enjoy your riding, then this just does everything for you. As far as I can tell, it's not lacking anything. As I said, it puts a big grin on your face when you ride it, which is the most important thing. It looks beautiful, it sounds lovely, it goes well. Yes, for a quote mid-sized bike, 15 grand is a lot of money, but you're buying into some exotic machinery here. Although the flappy mirrors might make you think otherwise. That really is an annoyance. I hope Ducati sort that out. But even on these sort of bumpy, potholed, as you see, gnarly roads, it's a joy to ride, particularly on a day like this. So yeah, I love it, and I'm really looking forward to riding it some more. Alright, if this is the first time you've been to the channel, I don't just do bike reviews here on the Missenden Flyer, but I do anything and everything to do with motorcycles. I do stuff in the garage about how to look after your bike, trips and tours at home and abroad, kit reviews, basically you name it, I try and cover it here on the Missenden Flyer. If you've not done so already, do hit that subscribe button. It'd be great to have you along for the next video. Okay, look forward to speaking to you again soon. Until then, this has been the Missenden Flyer. Cheerio.